What's going on, you guys? It's your huggable hipster here, and welcome to today's review on Little Nightmares 2. We're all a little evil sometimes, right? Oh, this game. This game is really good. This game is really good. Better than the first one, actually. Gotta take a snip of my schnapple before we get into this review. Was trying to make a rhyme, was not successful. The Pale City and the Maw, the Thin Man and the Lady are all a cycle of hatred's hunger and a prediction of the future of what's to come for our little friends. The Watchtower is acting as kind of like this morbid big brother, sucking sanity from those who hold it close to them. In Little Nightmares 2, we begin with a new adventure, and I ask 3 questions that we really need to think about throughout this entire review. A, is there an emerging timeline with this game and the previous game, creating like this looping effect? B, is there evidence to back that Six is the Lady and the Thin Man is Mono? And is the imagery in this game, i.e. the TV, the fragile children, a symbol for a decaying, broken society? I'll be diving into this and a little bit more within this review as we go on. Time loops, merging timelines, and many questions. Oh my. When we think of looping in video games, we normally think of kind of like the PT Silent Hills, right? We think of hallways repeating itself, a jump scare that's the same but ever so different each time it pops out. Or even that repeated theme throughout a game that we always see during like the plot line. It's kind of like in this looping mechanism of where it's the same theme or it's the same kind of doll or toy, but never a storyline. We never see a looping mechanic applied to an actual storyline. Maybe it's brought up in like different games and stuff like that, but never within a series of where a game is both a prequel and a sequel. What Little Nightmares have achieved here is something where we can see a definitive prequel and a sequel with the same types of themes embracing the game. Like the eyes, for example. They're watching over you. Like
the devil's delicate embrace.
The color schemes, the gnomes, even the signal tower's steady grasp on the character's sanity. It's all themes that are basically looping mechanisms throughout both games. Six alone controls this entire story. She is the key holder, the plot line sanctum, if you will. She's basically her own little oubliette, if you will. There's a lot of terms that I could apply to Six, but the fact of the matter is that if we go all the way back to the end of the game where Six betrays Mono, that's where the cycle starts. Six lets go of Mono. Mono becomes the Thin Man. The Thin Man tries to stop the cycle of betrayal, blind ignorance by saving Six, and repeat and go on and go on and go on and go on. When we even saw the first evidence of the Thin Man was in the very beginning of the game Little Nightmares, where Six encounters a man hanging from the rafters with very long legs. Hello, skinny legend, she's calling. We saw that thin, lanky, long man hanging from the rafters that we had to pull the chair from underneath, literally, and that could be applied to the Thin Man. That could be Mono. Not to mention the many TVs that are around the first Little Nightmares game as well, whenever we have, you know, Mr. Long Arms, which oddly enough a lot of characters have really long arms in this game series, but Mr. Long Arms, you know, after we turn on the TV to distract him in the first part of the game, and then he has to go and finagle the TV and he's like glued to it. Everything is melding together, and both universes are actually a cohesive world instead of feeling different and tacky and broken up bits and pieces. It's all the same. They are the same, you know, just tinier. Now, in the world of both Little Nightmares games, we see so many similarities. We see how the character Six can be related to the character the Lady, and we see how Mono can be portrayed as the Thin Man. And I've seen so many different theories. Actually, I like to wait until after I finish writing these articles to look at other people's reviews. That way nothing, like no outside opinions get jumbled up and they get conflated inside the article. It just becomes a mess. I've done that before, where like after I finish playing a game, I'll watch other people's reviews and then their review is in my head and I'm like, no, focus. So that's why I like to wait, finish my review, and then watch other people's reviews. After I finished this review, I looked and I saw that there were people who thought similarly to me in my idea that Mono is the Thin Man and Six is the Lady, which I thought was so cool because so many gamers are on like the same wavelength, and I just think that's awesome. I noticed that in Little Nightmares, Six devours mice, gnomes, meat that probably has just lasting bacteria on it, anything really. With Mono, He displays the same characteristics as the Thin Man, with being able to control the airwaves whenever we notice how he kind of, like puts his hand on the television screen and kind of moves it and jostles it around and tries to, control everything that's going on. And the fact that he's not killed off whenever he meets the Thin Man. The Thin Man, like, if you guys noticed in my playthrough that I did of Little Nightmares 2, he just holds him up. Like, he doesn't really do anything. With with the 6, he kind of just, like, grabs her and, then it becomes, like, a shadow form of herself. Which, by the way, there is Shadow 6 and there is regular 6. It is a thing. Both of our wandering littles are no strangers to the despair and loneliness and isolation of these worlds. There's a lot in these worlds of both games to distinguish that. To distinguish the fact that 6 is a lady and the Thin Man is Mono. This also goes back to my theory of, like, kind of looping and merging timelines to an extent. Because if you got the secret ending, which you can only get if you get the secret ending of the second game, I should clarify, which you can only get if you get all of kind of like the glitching children, which I actually did not get that ending. I'm going back through the game so I can get all the achievements. Yes, I'm an achievement hunter. Okay, don't come at me. In that secret ending, you see 6 facing her shadow self. A breath of reflecting oneself, if you will. 6 looks at herself, probably pondering, what are you doing here? I thought, I lost you. Just, go away. You will see 6's shadow self slowly look down, and the camera will pan down to look at a poster of what is the Maw. So this is indeed a prequel and a sequel, hence making this looping effect of where Mono dies, turns into the Thin Man. 6 goes to the Maw, she becomes the lady. She literally sucks the energy out and it all starts all over again. Which indicates that this is a merging timeline and a prequel. And also a loop. This is another game where it has a continuing story in a comic, much like Outlast. So if you haven't read the comic, you won't get some of the story, unfortunately, so if you have Android or iOS, I will leave the link down in the description below. No, I'm not sponsored, okay? I would never be sponsored just yet. Apparently I'm not that popular. But I'll leave the link down in the description below so you guys can check out the comic. That way you guys can actually, like, look at the story more so and see where everything is going and where everything is coming from, because there's more to the story than just the games. So if we take everything into consideration, we have multiple timelines. The time where 6 is alone at the Maw with Mono. Mono's timeline just by himself. There's so much. And when both timelines interact with one another, the story becomes a lot clearer and a lot more cohesive. Now, when both timelines interact, the story becomes a lot clearer, even though 6 throughout the game has this kind of, I don't know how to put it. She has this tone of disinterest, like, at points where she seems like she just could not be bothered with the tasks that Mono was doing. She would much prefer to be ripping the fingers off of prosthetic hands and watching corpses burn. We all knew 6 was demented, okay? Don't at me. Now, going into Mono's timeline, we all see the fate of how betrayal turned him into the very thing that he was running from. Which psychologically is a metaphor for some lines that people cross in life at times, but that's something I can get into in a different video. It's kind of like how the Thin Man and Mono are like the yin and the yang of the one another, how the lady and 6 are the yin and the yang of one another. They can't live with one another, yet they can't live without the other. And with Mono, what happens? He trusted 6. He helped her, and he trusted a lot of the things that were going on with her, because he would always kind of be jumping out to have 6 catch him in certain leaps, and I think that's very telling as well. What does 6 do? She turns on him and fed him to the signal tower. She fed him to the very thing that he would drown in and continue the cycle. So then the cycle repeated itself, and 6 becomes the lady when devouring her powers. Mono then turns into the Thin Man, controlling the airwaves. And the reason why I kind of think that 6 turns into the lady is because in the first game, I actually had to go back and see some of the first game and everything like that, but there were drawings. When you go into the ladies' quarters, there are these drawings of multiple ladies. So it's not far off that there were multiple lines of ladies that were all 6s, So then we have political manipulation, creating robots, societal decay, oh my. Society in this game is broken. Okay, let's just make that clear right now. It's broken, it's decaying, it's waiting for its next victim. The adults who sit in front of the TV looking for answers, and the children whose heads are empty get filled with this robotic nonsense in the political, society that just deems the need for all to live a happy life under their control. The creatures of the Pale City are all twisted and contorted, and they're one with the corruption of the Thin Man, most likely, because he's the one that controls the airwaves. He's the one that controls how everything should be viewed and how everything should be distorted and twisted. And the children are quite possibly depicting a breakdown of society and what happens when this kind of anarchy, in a sense, is done in a very, very poor way. You can have good anarchy. You can. But it has to be done in a very specific way. Lack of power, lack of control, lack of moral conscience. And in essence, control is a guiding factor in the Little Nightmares games. Control. Everything has to be controlled. The doctor who wants to keep the patient alive. The Thin Man's control over the people. The teacher's control over her students. And Mono. Even in the first game, the lady and her tight control over her appearance and how she wanted to be perceived to her people. It was all a form of control. So the story may be over, but the theories aren't. So let's go into my final thoughts. This game was powerful. The imagery, the music, the enemies, oh my god, the music. Even the surroundings. When I was in this game, and I was playing when I was in this game, it makes it sound like I was in Little Nightmares. No, just playing the game, I felt like this game took place where we all know and love from the first game, only darker, and I love that. And while the game, it may not be a sequel, there's not many holes that you can poke into this. There's really not many logical flaws or inaccuracies. There's just a lot of theories that you can have around it because there's so much information. It leaves you with all of those theories to obtain, sitting on the floor with a glare from the television screen in your face, wondering what's next. But you guys, if y'all like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below, because I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I stream on the weekends. And also, if you want to support the channel and my work, be sure to hit that link down below for Patreon, because I post content there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And all of my articles actually go up a week early on Patreon, so you guys can see it. The tier cost for that is $15 a month, because I had to try to figure out how I'm gonna charge for articles and everything like that. So that seems to be the sweet spot with everybody. But yeah, stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.